Hello, this is Miss Casey with FIBO Kids Art Academy. Welcome back to another wonderful class. Today we are going to be working on another Halloween project for our older class. Again, our older class is meant for 2nd to 6th grade, and today we are going to be creating a bat. So I'm going to show you my desk. This is what we're going to be creating today. And so we're going to be drawing a few bats in front of the moon. Okay, so it's going to be really fun. Now we're going to be using a material that we don't normally use. So if you've used this material before, awesome. If you don't know how to use this material, that's totally fine. If you also don't have this material with you at home, that's okay as well. It's going to be very similar to our chalk pastel. However, this one is called charcoal. Now charcoal is just burnt wood, but it comes in the form of a pencil, in the form of a stick. And so this stick here is our charcoal stick. So it's a little thinner version of your chalk pastels. However, charcoal is just a different material and it's different than chalk pastels. But if you don't have charcoal, you can just take black and white chalk pastels and follow the same process, because we're going to be using black, white, creating some gray. We're also going to be using some colored paper, but if you don't have colored paper, you can still do the black and white on a white piece of paper. We'll just kind of flip the darks and lights. Alrighty, so that's what we're going to be doing in class today. You do want to make sure you have your pencil and an eraser, but we don't need to do any Sharpie today, so you can just leave that Sharpie. We don't need it for a project today. So now let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to scoot my sample and materials over to the side for now. Now first, we're going to get started with our practice draw. So go ahead and take out your practice paper. Now that can be any paper that you have, any scratch piece of paper, computer paper, whatever you have. Now for our practice draw, we're just going to practice the overall layout, what we want our picture to look like. So it's how big, where it should be placed, but there's not going to be barely any details. We're going to draw our main bat and the moon behind it. So those are going to be the main shapes that we draw for our practice draw today. So go ahead and take out your pencil. Now once you have your paper out in front of you, you also want to make sure that it is horizontal, side to side. Now for your picture, you're going to be drawing with your pencil. However, I'm going to be using a Sharpie so that way you can see my lines better on your screen. So to get started, we are going to, right in the middle of our paper, draw a nice big circle. Now, circles can be a little tricky to draw. We definitely always want them to be perfect, but sometimes they don't really come out that way. That's totally fine. This is, first off, just your practice draw, so it does not need to be perfect. But to help you, if you have something big enough, you can go ahead and use a round object to draw around and help you draw a nice circle. But I want you to just try your very best. And again, this is just our practice draw, but we're going to draw a nice large circle right in the middle. So again, you're just going to do the very best that you can. And draw your circle. Continue it. Okay, so once you have your circle in the middle of your paper, next we're going to draw the bat. Now for the bat, we want to have it overlapping the circle. So there's going to be a few lines that we need to erase, but we just kind of wanted to see how large these objects are going to be. When we get into our final draw, we'll try not to erase as much. Okay, but first, right in the middle, we're going to draw a letter V. Nice wide letter V. And this is going to be for the top head of our bat. Once you have that, you're going to draw two curved lines that come down for the body, and they're going to come down all the way to the bottom of the moon. Once you have that first curved line, then you're going to curve it another one on the right side. So it should be pointy at the bottom, and you have the letter V at the top. So now that we have the body, we're going to draw the wings. So we're going to come on the left side, not at the very top, just a little bit lower from the left side of the body. And you're going to draw a curved line up like a letter U. However, it's not super curved, it's not super straight. And you're going to do the same thing on the right. So hop over to the right side of the body and draw a curved line up Okay, so now that we have the top of the wings, we're going to draw the sides. So back over to the left side, I'm going to start from the end of that line, and I'm going to draw a curved line that comes down. And notice how it's coming off of the moon. That's okay. We are overlapping today. So we're going to draw that curved line that comes down, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the right. From the end of that line, curve it down and over and stop. Okay, so now we have the two outside of the wings. Next, we're going to draw the bottom of the wings. Now, bats have these like different parts and segments in their wings. So we're going to draw the bottom of the wing like big rainbow lines. So we're going to start first. We want 3 rainbow lines. So we want each of them to come down, and then the last one's going to connect into the body. So watch me first. We're going to draw a rainbow line up and over. Not all the way, not too big, not too small. Then you're going to draw another rainbow line up and over. And you want these to be really curved because we want those points in between every rainbow to be nice and pointy. Now the last one you're going to curve up and over, and you're going to end at the side of the body. So we should have those really pointed ends, and then those really rounded ridges or bottom of the wings. Now we're going to do the same thing on the right side. So again, up and curved over, nice big rainbow, and then another one, up and curved over, and we should have 3. So we have 1, 2, and now our last one, up and over. Now, if they're all not the same size, it's okay. Like obviously this one is a little bit bigger than the one I have here. That's okay. If you want to try and make them the best, closest to each side, more similar to each other, then you can do that. However, again, this is just your practice draw. So if you did it like that in your practice and you want to get it a little bit more similar in your final draw, this is where we make those, think about those corrections we want to make. So your practice draw is just to help you. Okay, so that's all we're going to do for our practice draw today. Now, again, we do want to make sure that we erase those lines because our bat is overlapping our moon. So we are just going to erase those lines on the inside of the wings. Okay, so now that is the end of our practice draw. We're going to go ahead and get a new piece of paper for our final draw. Okay, now for your final draw, I'm going to be showing you how to color in your bat with charcoal on colored paper. Charcoal works really well on colored paper because it has a special texture. So I'm going to be showing you how to do it on colored paper. However, you are more than welcome to just use a regular white piece of paper. That's totally fine as well. However, whatever color or paper you decide to use, that's the paper that you want to draw on right now for your final draw. Now I'm going to show you our final draw on just a regular white piece of paper. However, if you would like to get a colored paper and draw on that, again, depending on what paper you have, that is going to be the paper you do your drawing on. Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and get started. You should be using a pencil, but I'm going to use a Sharpie so you can see my lines better on your screen. So now, first in our practice draw, we started with the moon. However, that gives us a lot of area to erase. So what we're going to do first is start with our bat. Okay, so for your final draw, you're going to come find the middle, go down a little bit more in the middle of your paper, and you're going to start with the top of the bat's head with a letter V. It's a nice wide letter V. Okay, and then you're going to bring those lines down. So now it looks like a letter M. Now from the sides of the letter M, you're just going to continue that line over and down to create this pointed area at the bottom of the body. So now that we have the body, we're going to draw the wings. Now for the top of the wings, we're going to come over to the left side, come down a little bit, not too close to the top, and you're going to curve it up. It's just like a letter U, but not that curved. And then we're going to curve it up on the right side. So now we have the tops of the wings. Now we're going to draw the sides of the wings. You're just going to curve it down. And same thing for the right. Curve it down. And now for the bottom of the wings, again, they have different sections, different segments. So we want to draw these really big rainbow lines to show those different sections. So I'm going to start at the bottom on the left side, draw a nice big rainbow line because I want those areas to be nice and curved. So then I'm going to draw another big rainbow line for my second area, and then another big rainbow line and over to the body. Now again, in your practice draw, if those different rainbows were a little different on the right side, you want them to be more similar, pay extra close attention to how you drew those 3 first rainbows and try to get them as similar as you can. But if you can't, that is okay. So nice big rainbow. And then another nice big rainbow. And one more to connect. So I have my 3 rainbows here and my 3 rainbows there. Now that I have my bat, my main bat, I'm going to go ahead and draw my moon now. So I'm going to come around. Now if you have an object that you traced for your practice draw, you can go ahead and get that object now to help you draw that nice circle. Or you can just do your best. Okay, but we don't want those lines inside the wing. So now that we have our main bat and our moon, next we're going to add a couple more objects into our project. So I'm going to add a few more bats flying inside the moon. You can draw yours inside, outside, or overlapping. So I'm going to have mine inside, so that way I don't have to erase anything. But if you would like to draw yours inside or outside, or if it's overlapping, just make sure to erase that line inside of your bat, because you don't want those lines to show. So like if I were to draw one over here and it's on top of that line on the outside of my moon, then I would want to make sure I erase that line. So now I would take my eraser and erase that line inside of my bat. So I just drew a few more bats inside the moon, but if there was any other details that you'd like to add, you can go ahead and do that, and that would be the end of our final draw. Now again, I drew it on a white piece of paper so that way you're able to see the lines better on the paper. However, if those of you that have colored paper, you should have done your final draw on that colored paper. So I'm going to show you what it looks like if you have your final draw on your colored paper. So I have my final draw here. Okay, and now there's also extra details we want to add into the body of our bat. So we're going to take our pencil again. I'm going to show you how to add in those details. So again, I'm going to do it on this paper so that way you're able to see it just a little bit better. But we're going to come up from those points at the bottom of the wings. You're going to curve it up about halfway until you get almost to the top, but don't go all the way. And then you're going to curve it over. And once you reach the other point down at the bottom of the wing, you're going to curve it back down. And then curve it back up and over, then back down. So you're just kind of following each different section and then over. So again, I'm going to come over and down, over and down, over and down. Okay, so again, I have all of those different sections. So we have an outside rim and we have all of those different sections inside of our bat's wing, the different legs that hold up the wings. Okay, so that's how your picture should look in on a colored piece of paper and then on your white piece of paper. Okay, so that's going to be the end of our drawing today. If you need a little bit more time with those drawing steps, definitely take your time, pause the video, and then press play once you are ready to continue on with us. Now, if you are ready to go ahead and continue, I'm going to switch over to my colored piece of paper because that is what I want to show you how we're going to do our coloring steps today. However, if you're using a white piece of paper, I will go back and forth just to kind of show you how you can, how it would change if you were on a white piece of paper. Okay, so first what we're going to do is we are going to create our white areas. Now we want to create the white areas because once we use charcoal, once we use the black, then that's going to basically overpower everything else on our paper. We don't want to get our hands too dirty before we start our white areas. So we're going to go first and get into those white areas. So I'm going to bring out my charcoal. Now I'm using the General's drawing class kit, and this contains charcoal in it. However, if you're just getting charcoal for this project only, then you can also just get charcoal. You don't have to worry about getting all of the other materials. But again, if you also don't have any charcoal with you in your supplies, that is okay as well. If you have chalk pastel, that is going to work just fine. You can also use anything that would have black and white. If you have black and white markers, that works great. If you have black and white color pencils, that will work fine as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take my charcoal, which again, I'm going to take my charcoal stick here. Okay, and then I have this white charcoal as well. Now, it's the same thing as charcoal, it's white charcoal, it's just white. Now, again, you can do that as well with your black and white chalk pastels instead. Black and white. Okay. So you no longer need your drawing materials. You can go and put those away. We're not outlining our picture, so you can just put all your drawing materials away. Now it is time to get started with our coloring. So we're going to start with our white first. So I'm going to take my white charcoal, and I'm going to outline around my moon. Now I only want to outline around the areas that are showing. So I don't want to outline over those areas that I erased inside the bats. Okay, so now that I've outlined, I'm going to go ahead and outline around the objects, like the bats, inside the moon as well. So I kind of create a little border. I know that I don't want to color past that line. Outlining really helps you to define those edges and understand what area and section you're coloring in. Okay, so I'm just using the tip of my white charcoal and I'm pressing down. Sometimes it could be a little bit tricky to get it to start working, and that's just because it has a wax coating on it. So you kind of just want to press down. You don't have to press down too hard to get it to work, but you just want to find its sweet spot. Where does it work? Also, they first come in longer sticks. So if you are using your charcoal for the first time, I do recommend breaking that in half because not only does it break the wax coating and it helps you use more of that pigment inside of the coating, but it also gives you more control because there's less of it and you can hold it in your hand a little bit easier. Okay, so now that I've outlined all of those edges around my moon, I'm going to go ahead and take, I was using the tip to outline. Now I'm going to take the edge. The edge is still at the very top of my white charcoal. However, it's one of those flat edges. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to go back and forth to get a nice area filled in. And it's going to give me nice white coverage. It's going to fill it in nicely. but it's also going to give me some dust, so that way later on I can go in and blend it as well to fill in any other empty spots. Now, since we're starting with white, my friends, if you're using white paper, of course we don't want to use white on white. That's not really going to work. So I'm going to show you what you can do instead. So if you have the white paper, this should be pure pencil, no outlining. But if you have the white paper, you don't necessarily need to worry about the white moon because that's going to remain white from your paper. What you can do instead is you can take your charcoal, and don't worry about the bats or anything just yet, but just lay it down like it's sleeping, kind of like we do normally with chalk pastels, and add a very light area of charcoal around the background. This is going to add some tone, some color to your background, and it's going to make your white moon stand out. So be very careful not to go inside the moon. Okay, so now that I've added just a little bit of color, next I'm going to take 2 fingers and kind of just blend that out. Now, not only do fingers work, but blending charcoal also works if you have a paper towel. That might also spread the charcoal out a little bit better. So you can definitely take a paper towel, wrap it in your fingers, and spread out that dust instead. You're just basically kind of creating a little bit of color into your background. You shouldn't have this harsh Sharpie line around your moon. It should just be pencil. So that's going to really make your moon stand out. So again, you're just adding this extra color. Now once you're done adding that color into the background, what you can do now that your fingers are a little dirty, you can kind of add a little bit of shading along the bottom of your moon, some gray. If it gets into your bat, that's okay. We'll be making our bat a little bit darker anyways. But you can kind of add just a little bit of shading at the bottom, maybe even along the top where your bat is. If it's not really transferring, you can just take a little bit more charcoal, blend that in. Okay, so I'm going to take my paper towel here, and I'm just going to add in, blend it out just a little bit more. It's going to get a little bit easier to blend with my paper towel. It's going to spread a lot easier as well. Now, if you don't like the texture that the charcoal makes, you can just add in a little bit more color and dust and spread that out a little bit more, and that might help remove some of that texture. Okay, now if you're doing your this on the color paper, you don't want to worry about the background just yet. We're only doing this because they can't color in their moon with white if their paper is already white. So hopefully you're still working on your moon. You're filling that in with your white. It's going to take some time because this is a large moon. Now if you don't have charcoal, you can basically do the same thing with your white chalk pastel. If you're using color paper, if you have a white paper, then you can do the same thing with your black chalk pastel along the background. Now, charcoal is just a little different than chalk pastel because it's not as easily dusty. You're gonna need to press down just a little bit more to get that color and dust coming off of your charcoal sticks. So if you do have charcoal and you've used chalk pastel before, hopefully you're able to really see the difference. Don't expect them to work similarly because they are different materials. Now, this is going to take some time with your charcoal. So if you need to take a little break, feel free to pause the video, take a break, stretch your hands, and then come back when you are ready. Okay, so I have the whole top of my moon. Now I'm going to work on the bottom. The bottom has much less paper to cover, so that should take a little bit less time than it did at the beginning on the top. Okay, now that my white moon has been filled in, I'm going to take a clean area of my paper towel, or I can take a clean finger. And you're going to take and spread that white dust around only in those areas that you filled in. So only in the moon. You want to fill in any other piece of paper that's left not filled in. Now some people don't like to blend and get their hands dirty, so paper towels are definitely really helpful. But some people like to kind of get really in there, be true artists and get messy. You can switch between a paper towel and your finger, you can just use your finger, or you can just use a paper towel. It will be totally up to you, and either way is fine. Okay, so now that I have my moon blended out, next what I'm going to do is I'm going to shake off that extra dust, and then I'm going to add in just a little bit of white, more white areas. And that's because we want to use our white first before we get too dirty. So with my white, I'm also going to add in some stars in the background. Now, if you're working on white paper, and you've already added some color to your background, the white charcoal is not really going to stand out against your gray background. You can try and work your charcoal into it. You might be able to see a good area of stars, and if you like it, then great. But if you're not really able to see it, rather than using your charcoal, you can instead take your eraser and erase away those areas where you would like some stars. That could work as well. Whatever works for the amount of charcoal that you added into your background and how light or dark you want those stars to be. Okay. However, if you have colored paper, you can just take your white charcoal and you can also go in and add. They don't have to be too big. They don't have to be too small, but you can go in and add a few circles for your stars. Now, if your paper is anything other than gray or black or kind of like a nighttime color, if it's orange, red, you don't have to add stars. I mean, we do have a moon, so stars would look nice, but you can also add in a little bit of gray tone to your background first before you do the stars. So that way that kind of stands out rather than the white on the red background or orange background. But if you have purple, blue, black, gray, all those dark colors, you're going to look really nice and look like it's nighttime. So all of that works fine, okay? Now instead, if you have like a white marker or if you have a white pen, like a gel pen, you can easily do those little stars to get them a little bit more controlled with those, with a marker or a gel pen, and that would look really nice. That would also be very bright in contrast to the paper. So that would look really good, but only if you have it. I don't, so I'm just using my white charcoal stick and it's working just fine. So now that I've added the stars and I have it where I want, now it's time to get to those darker colors. So what we're going to do is we are going to begin shading in our main bat. Okay, so for our main bat, we want to get it to be gray and have some dark black shaded areas. So we're going to go with our black charcoal first, and once you start with the black charcoal or chalk pastel, again, it gets it can get very messy, but it is very strong and it overpowers. So you just want to make sure you're very careful. Always, anytime you're using black, anytime you're using chalk pastels or charcoal also, you want to make sure that you have something nearby to help keep you clean, like a wipe or a wet paper towel. Anytime you need to clean yourself, your hands throughout this video, feel free to pause and take a little clean break. I will be doing that, but we may not do it all at the same time, so take the time whenever you need it, okay? So with my black charcoal, I'm going to come into these sections that I made inside of my wings. I'm going to outline them. I'm going to go along the side of my body. Okay. Now that I have those areas outlined, I'm going to go just right along the edges. And with charcoal and chalk pastel, anything black, it's going to, just a little bit is going to be plenty. So you don't want to go too much. You don't want to fill in the whole area. You just want to go right along the edges, add a little bit of a thicker outline. So I'm just going along the edges, making it just a little bit thicker. Now, if you're doing this with chalk pastel, you would just basically do the same thing. If you're doing this with color pencil, you do the same thing as well. Marker, maybe, you do the same thing. You can definitely do this with just Sharpie or a black marker and your white piece of paper. That all works fine. It's all mainly just black and white, so it's a really nice and easy way to change it and use alternative mediums if you don't have charcoal. So there's no problem. But once you have outlined those inner areas of the wing and you made it a little bit darker, you can take your paper towel or just your finger, whatever you prefer to blend with. I recommend only blending with one finger for this area. And you're going to outline around first, kind of place that color in, and then bring that shaded area in, fade it out a little bit into the middle. So as you can see, just a little bit really takes it a long way. And you can just get it nice and light and just fill in the rest of that area on the wing. So it should be nice and dark along the edges and get a little bit lighter as you come into the middle. Now, sometimes your edges might get a little bit harder to see. They might all blend and smear together. If that happens, that's okay. Just do your best to keep it as clean as you can. But later on, we can definitely go back in and redefine some of those edges, get it a little bit more crisp. Okay? So again, I'm just re-outlining where those outlines are, those sections. Then I'm starting to blend in the middle and get it lighter and lighter as I come in. Again, this would work with any material. Instead of blending, however, if you're using a colored pencil, you would just continue using that same color and just get it lighter as you come down into the middle. Okay, now once you're done blending that in, you can go ahead and shake off that extra dust. All right, and so now that we have those darker areas inside of the wings, next you can take what's left on your paper towel or your finger, keep it a little dirty, and you can bring that dirty area into the middle of the body. Now you want to just get along the edges. You want the edges to be nice and dark and then the center to be a little bit lighter. Now if you don't really have much left on your finger or your paper towel, then you can just get your chalk pastel, make those edges a little bit darker, or sorry, your charcoal or your chalk pastel, whatever you're using. Just outline the edges and then take your finger or your paper towel again and get that just a little bit darker and then lighter as you come in. Okay, hopefully you can see how that it's lighter in the middle and it's darker on the edges. Okay, now again, you also want to take what's left, see if you have any other dark pigment on your paper towel, and you can take that and just spread that gray into the rest of the wings, or you can just pick up from the inside, smudge that into those wings. It should definitely be much lighter than the inside of those wings. So you can just take that, get it a little bit colored, and then we'll add in some highlights after. Just go ahead and add in that color into those wings. Now if your darker areas got a little bit too light, you can always go back in with your charcoal again and just get them a little bit darker. The outline. And since I want those to be nice and crisp, I'm just going to take my finger and press that into the paper so that way it doesn't really blend. It just kind of sticks in that sharp edge. Lightly soften that area. Okay, so I just made those areas just a little bit darker. Blend in if you want it to be a little bit darker in the center. And then shake off that extra dust. make the outside edges just a little bit darker inside the body, so I'm just going to add a little bit more. If your edges are dark enough, you can see the difference between the edge and the middle of the body. You don't need to do this, but I just wanted my edges to be a little bit darker than that center area. So I'm just adding a little bit more color there, so I can really see that shaded area. Okay. Now with that dirty finger or dirty paper towel, you can also take it and add a little bit of shadow into your moon along the bottom, just like we had our friends that are on their white paper do. Now I don't recommend going in and adding charcoal directly with the charcoal stick. I do recommend taking what's left of like your dirty finger or your dirty paper towel and just smudging in that light gray. You can just pick up some of that color from the wing if you don't have enough. Just get it in there, a little bit darker. Okay, if you want it to kind of come up into the top, you can also do that. But once you have that, next we're going to add in our highlights. So I'm going to take my white back, and basically you just kind of want to go along the edges of your bat's wing, the outer parts, not the inner parts. We want those to stay dark. And you're just going to kind of blend it in. Okay, so I added it on the left side. I'm going to add it a little bit on the top. And I'm going to blend that in. And you just, you want it to be pretty subtle. You don't want it to be too vibrant. So I'm just going to go along the left side of each little segment of the wing. Kind of add it in, blend it in so it's nice and soft, not too bright. Just to get a lighter side. And that's really going to help those areas, those lines, stand out. You can also get along that edge as well, along the tops of your bat's head. Again, just to get a little bit lighter. If you want, you can add a little bit in the center. Just to get it a little bit lighter. And then this time you would go along the right side on the right wing. Again, just lightly feather that in, make it nice and softer. Just blend into that gray area along the wings. You want to get it along the top as well. Okay. And also add a little bit on the right side of the body. All right. Now once you have those highlights in your bat, you have your darks, you have your mediums, all of that is filled in your main bat. Next, you're going to fill in the other bats. Now we don't want to see as much detail as we do in our main bat, so you're just going to fill in those other bats completely black. Now you can do this with your charcoal stick or a Sharpie if you're using a Sharpie. Or a marker, or you can do this with your chalk pastel. Chalk pastels are a little bit bigger, so it might be a little hard to control where that chalk pastel goes. But whatever you can do to fill it in completely black. If you have charcoal pencils, like I do, some of you may not, but you might have these charcoal pencils. That's going to give you a better tip and control to fill in those smaller areas, so you can definitely use that if you have it. You're just filling in that whole thing, and then just I would take my pinky, but you want to take something very small and just push that charcoal in. Try not to smudge it into your moon. And shake off that extra dust. Blend that in. Now if there's any other details that you added in, you want to stick to this black and white and gray monochromatic color scheme. So if there's anything else that you added in the background or anything else flying around the moon, then you want to keep it a gray or black. Maybe add in a little bit of shadow and some highlights, but I'm going to keep it very simple. So these spots here are just silhouettes, which means that they are shadows since they're overlapping in front of the moon. So they're just pure black. Now, if with the black, if some of the black charcoal or chalk pastel kind of got outside of those details and now is a large blob, you can take the eraser on the back of your pencil, or you can take a larger eraser for a larger area, and you can kind of clean up those areas to help you get a more defined line, like around my wing here. I don't want to erase inside the moon because I want my moon to stay white. But right here inside my moon, I can try and erase that. But it is erasing my moon. So then I can go back in with my white charcoal and redefine that area. Just go back in. Get back those edges. There we go. Same thing down here. Perfect. Now, if you wanted to add a little bit of tone or color in the background, you could do that as well. You do have stars if you already added them, but you can add them in afterwards as well. You can just add a little bit of color. Take your tone, just add in a little bit of color to that background. This is what I was saying. If you have, you know, a color paper that's not really a sky color or a dark sky color like purple, blue, gray, black. If you have red, yellow, light blue, something that's not a dark sky color, a nighttime sky color, you can add a little bit of gray to the background, and that will really kind of push it to be a little bit more of a nighttime scene. And that will also help your moon stand out. It will give it some contrast. Okay, and then if you want, if your stars are not really standing out anymore, you can always go back in, make those stars a little bit brighter. Make some a little bit bigger. Make some have a little bit of shine to them. So have fun, get creative. And that is going to be the end of our project. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. And again, if you are still working, take your time, have fun, get creative, add more to it. This is totally your project now, and you can do with whatever you'd like with it. But I can't wait to see your guys' final pictures. Make sure to clean yourselves, clean your hands, clean your tables, get yourself nice and clean, and then go show your family and friends. So thank you all again for joining in on our class. I hope you guys really enjoyed this project and doing that in front of the moon. So I'll be seeing you guys again next time. My name is Miss Casey. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.